Hello listeners and welcome to another week on Chasm Converses. This week I have singer-songwriter Douzey, based in Melbourne but joining me from Perth. She tells me about living in France and London, to meeting musicians and taking steps to learn and begin her journey as a singer-songwriter. She shares some insights into her time working in the arts and with different comedians, her podcast called the Sound Quality Podcast, and she also takes us through some of her tracks, including Sleep No More and Pavement, and tells us about her upcoming EP, Discard. We also chat about Hyperphantasia and horror movies, but we're going to dive right in as we begin chatting about our names, our artist names, and pronunciations. So join us and let's get conversing. Chasm Converses.
Douzey, yeah. But I wasn't sure if it was Chafosm. I was like Chafosm or Chasm or Chasm.
Yeah. It's weird, like, because it's like, I don't know, like, before I even came up with the name a while ago, I went through the pronunciation so much. I'm like, this is like 100% how it's spelled, even though it looks like chasm, even though it's not that. It's just like one of the really shit anomalies of like the English language that just doesn't make any sense. But I guess that's just kind of how it goes.
It's like hyperbole.
Yeah, that's
it's like everyone has read hyperbole in English class, and then the first time you use it, you're like hyperbole, and you're like, then someone corrects you, and you're like, no. I feel like everyone's gone through that stage.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird. I mean, hell, I was like in London for 10 months, and I taught. Like I was doing like teacher's assistant work for year twos, and they would have like a phonics class where like you teach them the like sounds of like English words like the ch and d and b and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And like I was like the teacher was mainly teaching, and I was just like kind of assisting. But even like there were like words and bits that she would just like put out that even I would just get wrong, because it's like, oh no, that's not ch, that's k, but like this is a silent h. I'm like, right, okay. And it just really made me wonder how just ridiculous the English language really is when you kind of delve into it.
Yeah. I study French as well, and French is just as bad. I was talking to a Canadian French, and she was like, I had a whole class for a semester at uni that was just on the anomalies of the French language. And I was like, that sucks,
really?
Man. Like,
jeez, that's really cool.
Yeah, and then I sing in a French choir, and my choir teacher is always like nagging on everyone about diphthongs, because the Australian language like has so many and it's like, no, it's short. Like she really grinds us down. It's quite funny.
Like real like hard vowels. Australians got like real hard vowels. They're like A and E and I and O and shit like that. And so I guess you'd like pick up on that.
I mean, the trending one is no now. It's like the TikTok thing is how we say no, that there's like so many vowels.
Yeah, it's so weird, man, honestly. It's such a funny language when you get to it, especially when you go overseas and you start talking to people from like over there, and they just like they try and pick where you're from in Australia and whatever. It's kind of like, because there are little different I guess bits all over Australia where you go, like some people do sound slightly different, but like it's really just real like significantly minor, I think, myself. How is it in Perth? Is there much of a difference? Like, have you noticed with like people over there, like, and they're speaking with their Australian accents?
Because we got in late last night, but I was actually trying to hear out. I was like, is there anything different here? I don't know. I haven't noticed anything yet, other than everything being expensive. Like my coffee was $6. So
my God.
That's too expensive for a coffee.
$6? Is it like at least like the larger size, or?
Yeah, it is the larger size, and I got the almond milk as well. But
that's the thing. Yep, cool.
No, I was going to say, I remember being in Europe, and this German lady was like talking to us, and there was a Tasmanian with me, and she was like, I'm sorry, I cannot understand what the Tasmanian girl is saying. Can you? So I had to repeat everything the Tasmanian girl was saying, because she had the thickest Australian accent. But because like my mum's British, so I have a quite a rounded sound, I guess.
Yeah.
so she was able to understand me more than the Tasmanian. But to me, I was like, we're saying the same thing.
That's so cool. That's brilliant. Like because I was in. I mean, there's so much to go off from that. I mean, I also have a British mum, so that's quite cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Have you like jumped on like the British passport train as well?
Yeah. I lived in England for a bit.
So did I.
And I lived in France for a bit and England for a bit. But now, and my dream is to like work in France because I really want to get fluent in my French. But then Brexit happened. So I'm like,
right.
Now this is redundant.
Yeah, no joke. That's so cool. I lived in London for 10 months last year. So I only recently got back to Australia because I'm in Adelaide at the moment. But like, yeah, how long did you live in London for? And whereabouts in London did you live?
So in London, I know my family doesn't live in Slough, but they're near Slough.
Yeah, I know that is.
And I just know that because I remember talking to someone and I was like, oh, it's somewhere near Slough, and that's the Ali G jokes about Slough. So now that's ingrained into my mind, but I know they're not there, but I know they're right near the airport because my grandma likes to say, she makes a joke about how they built Heathrow.
Yeah.
But my grandma's mother refused to change her bicycle route to work. So she once would ride her bike through the like airport. I don't know, this is back in the day.
Yeah,
early
it's a
1900s.
massive airport. Honestly, it's huge.
Yeah. She would still ride it, and she was blowed off her bicycle while riding it because she refused to go around.
Oh, that's amazing.
So yeah, that's just like a family story. So I know that most of my family lives around there.
Sick.
But my auntie has a house, and her little town looks like Vicar of Dibley, and she doesn't have a house number. It has a name per house.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's so cute. Like, and she has the big British red door. Yeah, it's so wholesome.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I went to I did wrestling at a school that was right near Heathrow Airport. It was around like Harmondsworth and that sort of spot, which is quite-ish near. It's not near, not near Slough, but it's like on the way, I guess. So like, yeah, around that area. So I'd have to go to Heathrow first, get the tube to Heathrow, then get a bus from the Heathrow Airport to where that was. And yeah, like the airport is absolutely massive. Like there's no doubt about that. But then there's so many houses over there. Yeah. But there's so many houses that have like the names and stuff. And even like when like you call the landlines, they say like the number of the house or something like that when they answer the phone. It's so weird. So real classic London is like.
Anyway, is this the interview or are we starting the interview?
This is what it is, man. Like we just got, it's all lovely conversation, that kind of stuff. We carry it. Like this is what we do.
I love it.
Yeah, this is literally what we do. Well, this is what we do. This is what I do. Like I just basically carry this into conversation. I mean, it'll get to music eventually, but at the moment it's kind of just like starting around. Usually I like just say like, oh, hey, like I'll introduce the person in and all that kind of stuff. But we just kind of started off so well. So I was like, fuck it, let's just keep going.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny it was British because when I was living in England, that was like I met a bunch of musicians. And I met a guy who was a drummer, and he was only 21 or something.
Right. Okay.
How old was I? I was 19, and I was 19 and he was 20, and he was working like one day a week, at the shop. But then he was almost a full-time musician, and that was like the first time I met someone that was like a working artist. Because I guess in my family, like it was never a reality. It was always like a hobby. And then I went to uni, was hating it. So I just basically booked a flight. 2 weeks later, I was living in France for a bit and then went to England. And then, and then I met him and I was like, oh, my God, like you can do this. Like you can be a working musician.
Yeah.
That's a thing. And so then I was living in a share house in Shepherd's Bush, which is like classic Australian because that's where the Aussies live.
They live there and in Clapham, for sure.
Yeah. And I found a guitar in the basement and I like glued it back together. I went to a music store. I like restrung it. Like it was probably like a crappy job, but I was like, okay, I'm going to start writing music. And I just started doing open mics with it, learning songs with it. Well, obviously I'd already had music background. I've played piano since I was like 10.
Yeah.
But it was the first time I was like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to start actually like taking it seriously. And then when I came back to Melbourne, I was like, I just Googled like studios or how to write music. And then I met my mentor, Neil, who now is like my everything in music. I ask him everything, go to him. And now I've started a podcast literally with him.
Oh, sick.
Just so that I can extract more knowledge from him. So, yeah.
That's
That's funny
awesome.
how I just realized that we've come full circle.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, that's like probably the best thing to have with a mentor is like someone to, bounce your ideas off of and to get more information about a thing that you want to do out of as well. And they assist you. And obviously having a podcast as well to talk about all that kind of stuff is perfect. Because I mean, especially with podcasting, once you get going, like everything kind of starts coming out and like oozing out. And then it's like, oh, wow, it can become so constructive.
Yeah, 100%. Like everything. So our podcast is called Sound Quality Podcast.
Yeah.
And that was just because I made the joke. I was like, I want to draw a little koala with headphones on.
Oh, cute. Love that.
as the symbol.
Yeah.
So I haven't done it yet, though. I need to do that.
Yeah, right.
But it just came from, I was like, this would be really, like, I really want to extract the knowledge. And then Jack, who is another one of the kids he mentors, I say kids, but he's older than me. So I was like, it's good because Neil's like a Gen X, then Jack's like a millennial, and then I'm like on the cusp of a zillennial.
Right.
So I'm like,
okay.
And so we each bring a song that's like shaped us. So it's a song from any time period or whatever. It just has to be an Australian song. And then we just talk about it and then compare them. And then we kind of tell stories and talk about how it's relevant and stuff like that. And it's so interesting because it started off as a thing. And then I was like, you know what this song makes me think about is like this thing that happened and this thing that happened. And it just like, you're so right. Like as soon as you turn the tap on, it just runs. Like,
yeah.
It's so interesting when you actually sit down and think about how, a piece of art or music has influenced your life.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, there's so much of it that's influenced, like, obviously, everybody. And so many people get into music for different reasons and that kind of thing as well. I'd love to know, like, your reasons for getting into music. Is that something that also happened with you? Like, did you, find a piece of art or a music piece or a song that, someone wrote that just really influenced you to get yourself going and start writing your own music?
I loved writing. I think that's my thing. Like I love storytelling. I love writing. I actually was sorting out my childhood bedroom and I found like all these like little poems I wrote. It was like terrible writing with love hearts and stuff. So I've just always loved writing stories. I played piano. And I just always did that in my bedroom till late, finding songs on YouTube, trying to learn them. I remember Lisa Mitchell's Coin Laundry was a really big inspiration for me because I guess she did that really like feminine thing. And then Paramore was like Hayley Williams was is like a god to me.
Yes.
A goddess.
True that.
And she still is. Like now they've gone independent and like especially seeing because I guess she started writing at 16 and she says it. I've seen them about 4 or 5 times and I snuck out of school. So hopefully I still haven't told my mum this. I snuck out of school in year 7 to go to Soundwave just so I could see them live.
Oh, shit.
So I think she was a really big inspiration for me. But just doing that and writing. I mean, obviously I'll never release anything I wrote before I was 19.
You never know.
Because it's always terrible.
It's always time for refining, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then my first bachelor's degree was writing. And I really want to write, like my dream would be to write like a musical, like Kate Miller-Heidke did the Cinderella musical and I'm like obsessed and like Tim Minchin doing Matilda, that's such a inspiration for me. So
same with me.
So I think just writing stories because I actually recently found the word for it because I was listening to another podcast, No Such Thing as a Fish, and they talked about, because aphantasia is when you can't visualize things in your head, but I think I've got hyperphantasia where I have such vivid ideas in my head. Like all my songs have full stories, music videos, characters, so I must have that hyperphantasia because everything is so meticulous in my brain, and I can't get it out, and I'm trying to explain my ideas. Like even one of these songs in Discard has a weird syncopation at one point, and the producer's like, I don't get this bit of the song, and I was like, it's just like you're trying to explain it. I'm like, it's like this. Or even Hera's song, actually. When I was recording Hera's song, explaining that to my producer and explaining that to the band at the end of the song, and there's a little snippet, I guess, foreshadowing, and it changes the timing. Yeah. And to me, it just makes sense. That's just how the song is. Like, it just came to me, and that's how it's supposed to be written. But then I had to explain it to all these people, and I was like, what do you mean you don't get it? And I'm like, it just does this. And we're like, I don't know what note it is. I'm like, so we're trying to figure it out. It is what it is, I guess.
For sure. It's so hard to really kind of explain something to someone when it's just something that's really in your head, and you just as you say, with the hyperphantasia, I have a very similar thing as well, where I have songs written in my brain before I could even write them myself. It's something that you have when you've got a really active mind, a really visual mind, and a very broad imagination as well, is where all that kind of starts to fit in and all the pieces sort of start to come together. But sometimes it can be very difficult to kind of explain something to somebody, especially if you don't know the technicalities behind it. You just have the vision and the idea and the sound of it. But that's so fantastic. And I love the fact, obviously, there's so many of these little increments that are going to be in your newest EP Discard as well. So that's going to be sweet. And obviously I love the new song Pavements as well. That was because that came out just the other day, didn't it?
It's out now. I'm not bad at technical admin stuff. No, but I was going to ask you, if you've got hyperphantasia, how do you feel about horror movies? Because I cannot watch horror movies.
Really?
I get nightmares. I can't sleep. Because it's so visual. I once saw a trailer to a movie once, when I was in high school, and I had to sleep in my sister's room for a week.
Wow. Shit, and then, damn. That might be
I was doing gigs in. It just freaks me out. I just and even I watched everything. What's that movie? Everything Always Everywhere All at Once,
or something. Yeah, something like that.
My God, my dreams after that were insane. Not scary, but they were really intense.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then,
wow.
Yeah. So recently, I was touring in Sydney, and I was staying at a friend's house, and we watched X and Pearl.
Okay.
And he had to hold my hand in some of it, because I was like, no, I'm an adult. I should watch a horror film, and I've heard really good reviews. But I couldn't sleep very well that entire trip.
I remember I saw the trailer for Pearl, and I was just like, oh man, this looks absolutely just nuts. I like horror movies. I definitely enjoy them. I have a little crew of friends that I sometimes go to the cinemas with, and if one comes out that we're all kind of let's go see that. We'll go as a crew and go watch it together. If it's absolutely terrible, then you'll know, because we'll just start laughing, because we're just at that point.
Well, that's what Zach was doing. He was making jokes through it, so that was making it better.
Yeah. It's hard to watch people horror movies that people like that, but we are a bit like that, because it's just when you see something, it's just sometimes it can just be, it's just funny. Sometimes and people don't get it, but we get it, and so it's a bit fun.
It's a thing, and that some people do. It's because I actually did a subject at uni that was about horror. So I've studied horror. I understand horror. I love the idea of horror. It's always about taboo subjects, and because X and Pearl are very about, the feminine discourse of like man going to war and that trauma and stuff. Like I understand all the metaphors and I love it, but it just freaks me out.
Yeah, it's so surprising, especially since you've studied it, so you spent so much time around it that you still have that. You still have those like those nightmares and those sort of visions and that sort of stuff. I mean, but yeah, like I think it's I mean, for me, I've never really had a lot of nightmares. I used to have really fucking bad nightmares when I was younger. And then even like more recently, this was maybe like a month or two ago. I was just like lying in bed because I obviously active thinker. So sometimes when you're in bed, you just sit there and you just don't sleep for like 2 hours. Your brain just goes and goes and goes and then sleep terribly. But like, I just was in bed one day and I was just like sitting there and I was like, you know what? I actually haven't had a nightmare in a very, very long time. And then I went back to when I used to have like pretty bad nightmares. And I was like, all right. And then that night I had one. And I was like, oh shit. So I basically just gave this to myself by thinking about it. And it was like, it was nowhere near the level that it used to be, but it was the same kind of feeling. And it was like, wow, like I haven't had that feeling for so many years, but I basically just gave it to myself by thinking of it, which is insane, right?
Wow.
It's so strange, but like, but as I said, but yeah, like with all that kind of stuff, it's cool that, you can like, bring out so much creativity through like, visions that you have or through your imagination and all that kind of stuff. It helps so much as a musician as well, because especially when it comes to like songwriting and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's a real blessing, but it can sometimes be a little bit of a curse as well.
Yeah. And it's weird because I love surrealism and I love that, but surrealism is on the cusp of horror.
Right.
So it's weird that I love that. So it's like I love to toe the edge of horror, but not quite there. Because I love just like, weird things like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I love that movie. And I like weird movies. Like I love watching like old school Salvador Dali stuff. And
oh yeah, sweet, nice.
Yeah, I even was talking to my director. I was like, how can we get like a carriage and horses and a wall that breaks down just like the film in there? Like, how do we do this? He's like, oh, you do not have the budget for that. Like, like, damn it, one day.
That's the hardest bit. I know. That's the hardest bit, right? You have like an idea for like a music video or something like that, and this is like your big, you basically give it everything all at once, and then you have to like cut it down so it's actually doable.
Yeah.
And it becomes so much of like a shell of its former self. But I think that's like every musician's dream is just to be like, man, like, I want to have just like a budget to be able to do just everything all at once.
Yeah.
And just make this fucking awesome. It's like I'm the same with merchandise. Like I just want like shirts with just lyrics from songs on just every fucking shirt, every color, different designs everywhere. And it's just like, man, I would love to be able to do that and just like fund them and just like put them on every person's body. But like, damn, not the current time, sadly. But like, it's a dream.
I literally just started purchasing all my merchandise for the big EP launch party.
Hell yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so poor right now. Like I'm investing like all my money into this.
Yeah. And
like my mum is my administrator as well. So she's like,
awesome.
Where's all your money? And I'm like, don't ask me. I'm like, it's a long-term goal, Mum. Like you don't understand.
Yeah, it's really hard to get it across to the parents sometimes when it comes to like all that kind of stuff, because it's from a different time, but then they also just don't have that experience. I mean, as I said, like we've just got so many opportunities these days and it's so easy just to do them, but there's obviously so many people who are also doing them, so that's where the competition kind of comes into it. But then it's like, if you're good at what you do and you have fun while you do it, then my one of my best friends says, you create art for art's sake, just for the sake of creating art. If you can do it, you do it. And then if you want to put a bunch of money behind it and fund it and do whatever you want to do with it, then you do it, because it's like, I like doing it. So, and sometimes that's just like a good reason to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've saved up all my, for this EP, like there's only 3 songs because the producer I wanted to work with and everything, that's just how much it costs. And like I drew the EP cover because it's like,
awesome.
I need it. And I just sat on Canva. I hated it.
Oh,
I am not a graphic designer. Like I love drawing and I do a lot of like that black and white drawings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
but doing the whole graphic design process.
Yeah.
Because I had to scan it onto the computer, but then because black and grey are different, and I was sitting there and I had to redo it, and it took me like 12 hours. I was like screaming at my laptop going like, do this, like figuring it all out. And so I have a big appreciation for graphic designers now.
Yeah,
because and even in the end, it's not exactly how I imagined it, but it just got to a point where I think every artist is like, it's done. You've got to just let go of your idea and just let it exist.
Yeah, for true.
But yeah,
absolutely.
I hate the digitization. aspect. So, all my money's gone into this little EP. So hopefully,
it's very exciting.
My goal is to break even.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. And it's so exciting because, this will be your second EP. So it's like, you sort of have an idea of what happened the first time. So now it's like, cool. Now you can sort of go on to the next time and see how that one differs from the first. How is this one sort of a bit different from the first one that you did, in your opinion?
So my mentor was the producer on my first EP, and he did the sound engineering. He did sound engineering. And so it was finished, but it was very raw. Like the things weren't produced per se. And I was sitting on it, on Ophelia for a little while. And I was actually working. So I did some work for a few years with Century Artists, which represent a bunch of comedians during the comedy festival. Because again, like all I want to do is be an artist and work in the arts, and so this was like a gateway. And so, so I was working for a bunch of artists, and then there was this one artist, so Josh Ladgrove. And he has a character called Neil Potenza, and I was working promoting his stuff, just assisting his producer with anything and everything. Yep. And he, I think it was after his show or something, we were just talking, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a musician and I have a bunch of songs. And he's like, oh, show me. And I was like, okay, cool, like, if you want. And then he was like, can you send me the stems? And I was like, ooh. Why? What? He's like, I want to play around with them. Send me the stems. And so I sent them to him. And then before I met Josh,
yes,
I was working in the arts, just doing anything to get my foot in the door. So I was working at Falls Festival, and he was doing a midnight show, right? Yeah. And he, at this show, he's shoves a microphone up his ass. And I was like, who the fuck is this artist? Yeah. Anyway, and then 3 months later, I'm representing him. I'm like, oh my God, this has come full circle.
What a transition that is.
and then, so I gave him my stems of the song. And then he sends me back a dubstep version, a metal version of Ophelia, and then the really, what basically is the finished product now. And I was like, oh my God. And then he's like, can I just produce your EP? And I was like, okay. And he just did it for free. I was like, oh my God, this is a blessing.
That's incredible.
And he added in a bass line and stuff. And so I went to his house out in, I think it's Williamstown area with his Bubba, the most gorgeous lady, which recently he just did a show all about her because she died during COVID, unfortunately.
So yeah, right.
So it was very wholesome. He's got 2 degrees and can speak French, and he's Ukrainian as well. So
there you go.
He's the most interesting person ever. And he just produced this EP for me, and then I went to Brisbane for a bit to do some gigs, and then I had a window, and I messaged my filmographer Dylan, who did all the photos, and his business was just starting out. And so we woke up at 5 a.m. to get golden hour to do the photo shoot on the rooftop in Brunswick.
Sick.
And we got those shoots, and I was freezing. It was so cold that morning. And honestly, until we started working on the stuff, the Hera song, and like all the promotional stuff, the Discard EP, I forgot about like how cold it was, because then we were filming at the beach and I was like, oh, it's really cold. And he's like, remember on the rooftop in Brunswick? I was like, oh my God. Like I just blocked it out. It was so like I was cold for hours afterwards. So
it was one of those colds. Yeah, damn.
Yeah, it was next level, but I was like, do it. It's got to do it for the art.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, and so that's how Ophelia came about, basically.
Awesome.
Slowly. And then, so Discard's been completely different. So last year I kind of said, finally, okay, I'm going to get my shit together. Can we swear on this?
I definitely have.
Okay. I was like, okay. So January last year, I was like, okay, I want to just do it. So I'll just start off with these 2 songs, which was Sleep No More and Hera's song. And then I spent a bit of time looking for a producer, because Josh, since then, like he just won, he won Comedy Festival awards, and he's doing amazing for himself.
Incredible.
Again, I think he's touring Bubba at the moment, and that was a really beautiful piece. So I do highly recommend people to check him out during Comedy Festival. I don't know if he's actually doing anything. I'll have to find out.
Yeah, I wonder if he's in Adelaide Fringe Festival, because Adelaide Fringe Festival is going on right now. So I wonder if he's doing that at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I'll message him and find out, actually.
Possibly.
So I've lost my train of thought now. So I got the beginning of January. I was like, okay, going to do this. Shopped around. I met Craig, who is a musician under the name Delsinki, and he linked me up with Cameron. So Cameron's the guitarist for Mark Seymour of like Hunters and Collectors and stuff.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah, and it just worked. He's very to the point, straightforward, amazing guitarist, multi-instrumentist. Really, it's been really fun, because Sleep No More had this syncopation that I couldn't quite get right. And then he's like, just make it a bit more staccato. Yeah. And literally after that line, making it more staccato, I was like, oh my God, that works perfectly. So he's so good at like listening to bits and pieces. And then even the intro of Sleep No More, we were literally finishing the song, like it was done, and I was just like just doing a bit of that in the thing. And he's like, get up to the microphone, do that, and then now that's kind of like the hook inside the entire song.
Sick.
So he's so good. So he's got such a keen ear for bits and pieces, and even Pavement solo, the solo guitar bit in it was just perfect. I was like, I want like a little solo thing in here, and he did a few different things, and then the one that we chose went in, and it just perfectly sits in the song.
Sick.
So, me and Cameron have really good, I guess, chemistry, and, I just love all his ideas. Oh, not all of the ideas, actually. We went back a few times. Like, one of the versions of Pavement was, like, this real electric pop thing, and I was like,
right, okay.
I was like, I want hard guitars in it. This is an angry song. This is me talking shit about bad dates. Like,
brilliant.
Yeah, so, and he's been really fun to work with, and, I really hope to work with him more. And it's really funny, actually, because now I've got an interview with Mark Seymour next week, so I texted Cam. I was like, hey, look who I'm going to interview with. Here's who I'm going to talk shit about. So I'm very excited to finally meet Mark after knowing Cam for a little while.
Oh my goodness, that's so exciting for you, my God! Like, and I love the whole thing of like, when you do something, late in the recording or late during like the session, and it ends up being the introduction of the song. That happened to one of my songs. It's so cool that like that sort of thing can just go on and happen, and it's just like, it's I don't know, it's part of the process. It's just part of the process. It's so great. we're about to finish up now because I'm almost at the end of my time over here, which is a bit sad because this has been such an awesome conversation. Like,
oh my God, yes.
I know you're such a lively and just exciting person to talk to, and it's been so great to like get an insight to all of your music, all that kind of stuff. I'd love to know because obviously you're from Melbourne. What are you doing in Perth at the moment?
So I'm here with a family friend, and I'm going to do some promo for the EP. And then my family friend really wanted to go to the wrestling.
Oh,
so there's like a big
way.
international wrestling thing.
You're going
so
to
I'm going to go
Elimination
to
Chamber.
that today.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
So I'm going in blind.
You're going to love it.
But I am excited.
Yeah. That's sick. I'm a massive fan of what you're literally going to. So yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Because that's like the biggest thing that's going on in Perth right now. So there was a part of me that was like, I wonder what she's doing in Perth. Because like the only big thing going on there is literally the WWE. So it's like, yeah, you're gonna have an awesome time tonight, and hopefully you become a big fan of it when it's all said and done. Because like, yeah,
I used to study at Howard Fine, and there was a guy in there whose dream is to be like a professional wrestler. So I'm very excited to go see it because I'd never thought it was a thing until I met him. And he's like, no, it's like a whole thing. Like, and his like dream, I guess, acting role is something like The Rock and all that. Of course, so I'm excited to see his world.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be so exciting. I hope you have the absolute best time. Again, thank you so much for joining me, Douzey.
Thank
it's been
you.
so wonderful to chat with you. Have the best time at Elimination Chamber tonight. And I also wish you all the best with your release of your new EP, Discard, in March.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode this week. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Douzey and myself. Go check out her latest single, Pavement, and give her a follow on the socials to keep up to date with everything that she has going on, including the release of her upcoming EP, Discard. There are links in the description of this episode where you can find it all. As for myself, follow me on Instagram or YouTube at This Is Chasm, where you can find reels from this podcast and even some extended clips. And finally, please leave a rating and a review for the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I'll see you next week for a new episode with a new guest here on Chasm Converses.